Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the 11th session of council this Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. In-person meetings have resumed with a hybrid format option where members of council and the public can still join electronically via Zoom. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone was attending in person, and if there's any problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed at the direction of the mayor to confirm that the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. In the event of connection or service disruption to those attending electronically, the mayor may recess the meeting to allow for attempts to reconnect. So we'll call the meeting to order at this time at 7 o'clock and note that there were no closed meeting before this meeting. So at this time, if we would rise, anyone who can, for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Michisagi, and Omama people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Two-Row Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. So at this time, we will go to the open forum. The first 15 minutes of any regular council meeting will be set aside for open forum. Individuals may address council to voice opinion on subjects of municipal concern, excluding matters subject to public meetings, i.e. under the Planning Act. You can only speak once and for no more than 3 minutes. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Ontario's Ontario's Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting, consultation, or other public process are considered part of the public record. Anyone wishing to speak at the council meeting can register in advance or use the raise hand feature during the meeting. We have none registered? Not for open forum. For open forum, okay. So I would there's only one In attendance, I'll go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to council under the open forum, please use the raised hand feature at this time and we can bring you into the meeting.
None this time, just
Seeing none. And I believe you're here as a delegation this evening? Scheduled? Okay. So we will move forward. No public meetings, confirmation of agenda. Recommendation is that the agenda for the May 23rd, 2023 agenda be adopted as circulated. And there hasn't been any changes, amendments to it. So as circulated, do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Any questions? Call the question. All in favor? Please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there members of council that have a declaration this evening? Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, and through the mayor. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary conflict of interest for item 15.2, as my brother is employed as one of the bidders, and as well for item 17.1, as the request relates to my employer.
Thank you. And documentation be provided to the clerk on that. Thank you. I'll try to remember to just mention that when we come to those items, just for the record. Any other disclosures this evening? Seeing none. Delegations and presentations. So we have a presentation on the community safety and well-being plan. It's being presented by Karie Warmar of Avail Consulting. There we go. Good evening, Karie.
Good evening. I'm sorry I missed about 20 seconds of that while I was just rejoining as a panelist. So thank you very much. And I'm just looking to see if there's my co-presenter, Catherine Manners, was joining this evening as well. I'm not sure if she
in the audience.
Yes.
The clerk said she's in the virtual audience. You bringing her in then? Should be able to see her shortly.
Wonderful. So I believe hi. So I believe I'm sharing my screen. Thank you to Mayor and Council for inviting us. We're very pleased to be here tonight to share with you an update on your community safety and well-being plan. And so I think
you're not sharing your screen at this time.
no, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, I thought you said you were sharing it. I just wanted to make sure that.
Wonderful.
There we are.
Okay, so. Okay. So I'll move on. And Kathy, are you seeing my screen too?
I am. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So so for everyone, this is just a quick overview for this evening. We're going to be looking at the framework. So the framework from the ministry around the development of the community safety and well-being plans, why community safety and well-being planning is important, the role of municipalities in the planning and the ultimate plans, our approach to planning, your plan at a glance, the governance structure of community safety and well-being, and key elements of the plan and implementation, as well as some next steps. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So the mandate comes to us from the Government of Ontario under the Province of Ontario's Bill 175 under the Safer Ontarios Act, mandating that every municipality in the Province of Ontario develop, adopt, and implement a community safety and well-being plan. Now, you could do this independently as a municipality, or you could do it in partnership. And really that played out across the province in different ways, depending on how municipalities were structured, their relationships, and how they were supported by services. On the right-hand side, we can see the framework, which is lifted right from the Solicitor General framework that they put out, the booklet they call it, for community safety and well-being. And we can see that there's 4 domains that they're really asking communities to look at when they're doing this planning. So in the center in the red, you see the incident response. So that's that critical incident response. You think of fire, police, emergency services. The next is the yellow, risk intervention, and that's, you think of kind of the situation tables that just outside of the immediate risk, but elevated risk. And then there's prevention. I would think of public health is a great example of prevention. And then social development. It's harder to kind of nail down who those partners are around social development. But the ministry does ask us to really try to have a focus in the blue and the green. And so in our consultation with your community, we really tried to be aware and mindful of the work that's happening in the red and the yellow, but look at planning more in the blue and the green.
So we know that community safety and well-being is important to you, and ultimately the Solicitor General stated that the achievement of sustainable communities where everyone feels safe, a sense of belonging, an opportunity to participate, and where individuals and families meet their needs around education, healthcare, food, housing, income, and social and cultural expression is really the ultimate goal that we're trying to achieve by having a community safety and well-being plan. Along with that, it expands your network relationships. So we look at this plan from an intersectoral collaboration perspective, from an information sharing and knowledge exchange, and from data intelligence. And really, ultimately you're seeking to improve equity, access, and quality of connections and support to residents as they aspire to move forward.
So often we get asked, what is the role of municipal government and municipal staff in these plans? And initially, the municipalities were tagged by the government to plan, develop, adopt, and post your community safety and well-being plan. So you have planned, you have developed. Tonight, I'm not sure if you are adopting your plan, but you will ultimately, once you do, post your plan. Then you would notify the Solicitor General that your plan has been adopted and posted publicly. And then the next step is really for this plan together is a shared plan between Loyalist and Greater Napanee. And so you'd have municipal representation from both that would kind of get together and work to coordinate and convene the governance structure, which we're going to touch on in the presentation tonight for the plan. And that really starts with reconvening that advisory body that's been supporting the development of the plan, because they're really the ones that are going to kind of steer and steward this plan forward as you move into the next phase, which is implementation. And then working with that advisory body, you're going to want to quickly identify a local champion who would be that point person to lead the implementation phase of the plan. And then ongoing, once you've done that, you're going to want to support the ongoing implementation and strategies identified in your plan by continuing to have representation on the advisory body, and then working with your community partners to form the working group. And if there's any strategies that are more relevant to municipal input, then you might want to kind of lend your voice and your support there. And ongoing, it hasn't been asked yet, but the ministry has said that at some point when all these plans are in to them, they will be looking at some type of reporting or evaluation piece to that, but they have not shared any details around that. I think they're just waiting for kind of the final plans to come in, and then they'll look at what everybody's doing across the province and figure out a way that they can reach back out and ask for some input on the status, like how you're progressing with the implementation of your plan.
So let's just talk about a little bit about the approach that was taken to get to your plan. So there are areas of risk informed by data. So we looked at the different data sources that you're seeing on the screen there, from public health to OPP to situation table data, all of that public Stats Canada data. And that started to create some areas of risk or some themes. And then there was a lot of community engagement. So there was a resident survey, some town halls, lots of engagement with stakeholders, one-on-one meetings with some key stakeholders. And as Karie stated earlier, we had an advisory group that we were able to check in with, and just to make sure that that the themes made sense for the community.
So this page, very small, hard to read, but the good news is you do have a copy of the plan, and it's larger for you there. This is really looking at your plan at a glance. So kind of the Reader's Digest or Cole's Notes of your plan. So across the top on the left-hand side, you see the areas of risk that were identified, or areas that the plan will focus on. The first two are related to safety. And so those really are looking at optimizing community spaces. So, physical environment, and then feedback that we got through the survey and through consultation and through town hall was around personal and property safety. So residents expressing, kind of questions around their personal or property safety. And so that's real and or perceived issues around personal and property safety. And then the other three relate to more well-being. And those are access to supports and services. So we heard that there's, a challenge, a struggle, maybe a concern around access to supports and services. Some concerns about community connectedness. There was certainly some strong connections in certain pockets, but then understanding that the growth of the community and what the community might look like 5, 10, 15 years from now, there was a concern that maybe some of that might slip, and so they wanted to preserve that. And then certainly mental health and addictions. And mental health and addictions, I can confidently tell you, is showing up in every plan I've looked at in the province. Mental health and addictions is showing up, so that's not something that's unique to your community, but it may look different in your community. So that's why it made it into the plan. And so if you look at the left-hand side under key strategies, it has those 5 areas of focus, and then those bullet points under each one are the actual strategies that over the course of 3 years, the community and the partners will take a look at and work towards.
So to do this work, and Karie and I have been doing this work in other communities, you need some sort of governance structure to move this forward. And so the work often happens at the individual or resident level, at the organizational level, and certainly at the system level. So we had a preliminary advisory body that was developing the plan, and our recommendation is that it's expanded to oversee the implementation of the plan. What that means is you'd need a champion or a lead to be identified by the advisory body. And then in addition to that, because your plan is laid out as far as ideas around safety and well-being, that we see some merit in having local tables, a couple of local tables focused specifically on those 2 domains. And then there was lots of conversation about the future of the community and the need for better engaging youth. And so our recommendation is to also have a local table. And then we know that things like the situation table is an important aspect of your community. So to tap into those other tables that already exist, and also to consider some of the agencies sit on other community safety and well-being tables. And so they would be informing kind of this governance structure along the way.
So this visual representation is really just kind of looking at what's involved in the next phase of implementation. So you can see on the left, you have safety. On the right, you have well-being. Those are your areas of risk. In the circle in the center, there's some important aspects that you don't want to forget about that's in the framework issued by the ministry. So they want you to focus on social development. So that's that outer green ring of that bullseye. They want you to focus on prevention, which is the blue, because those are the more upstream, addressing kind of more root cause than being very reactive. That's not to dismiss the work that's happening in the yellow and the red that's needed, but there's often a lot of attention already given to that because that's what cries out in the community the most. That's where the urgency is. So this is a great opportunity through community safety and well-being to kind of get a bit ahead of that and be looking at the social development and the prevention through a prevention lens. And then the 3 areas of focus that the framework from the ministry asks communities to really consider is that what you're doing is intersectoral and it's collaborative, that there's a way of exchanging information and increasing knowledge throughout the process, and that you measure it somehow, that you're reflecting on data, you have some way of tracking how if you're improving and what that impact is. So in the center of that, there's certainly the vision and the leadership that needs to be guiding this, because these plans fall apart very quickly or don't get off the ground unless there is that vision and leadership to drive it and guide it. And then those other purple elements there are some of the pieces that you need to be thinking about when you're looking at each of the strategies. Where should it land in the governance model? Which working table? What resources are we going to require? Does it require any resources? Is it in kind? What the strategies and actions are that we're being asked to consider? Does this mean a change in policy or any of our practices or processes? And then, what is the data that informed this? How do we look at refreshing that data in the future to be able to measure that impact?
So really, we wanted to leave you with just some next steps. So one of the requirements from the Solicitor General is for you to post your community safety and well-being plan and submit a notice of completion, adoption, and posting to the ministry. Then it's important that you convene your advisory body and identify a champion as soon as possible, so you keep the momentum going around the conversations around community safety and well-being. And then really action your plan by starting with year one. So in the document that we've created for you, we have made suggestions around what were some of the things that you could start with. And then we've kept your plan at 3 years so that you're aligned with all the plans across Ontario, that many of them were 4-year plans. And so that way they all will come in at the same time, and then you'll get further direction from the Solicitor General after the 4 years are up.
So I'm going to stop sharing there. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. I'll turn to council. Any questions or comments for the presenters on this evening? Councillor Crowder.
Yes, through your worship. A lot of the things reading through the plan are things that I heard personally when last November, involving youth, mental health supports, community policing, and a couple of specifics were just the idea of the traffic calming. I don't know, I'm looking for it here. I don't know where I posted it. And I think one thing when I look at your data, that over 22% are over 65 years of age, and that's the cohort that many of my family members are in, and we have to, whether it's transportation or access to care, that's only going to be a bigger number. And the one thing I would like to see in general sense, and it may not come out of this, is looking at, we only have 6.4% of our housing is geared to income or low income, and I think that's going to be an ongoing challenge as we go ahead. That's it.
Thank you. Council, any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Thank you for the presentation this evening. And also thank you for working through the process with Napanee and Loyalist and bringing this plan forward. Throughout the process, I stayed in contact with the Deputy Fire Chief Feeney and the CAO, getting feedback and also attended the community engagement. And from what I can see and what I've read, you've captured what I heard and what I understood were the concerns from the residents as well. And it's hard to capture everything, but it was summarized well in the plan itself. So I appreciate that. And just to touch on, at the beginning, it was mentioned that, and at the end as well, it was said about the report coming to council for adoption, and it is on this evening's agenda, further down 16.1. So we will be addressing it tonight, and that should allow us to go on to the next step.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to work with an absolute pleasure to work with your community and Deputy Chief James Sweeney, and congratulations on your plan and being able to move that forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
And I'll just scroll back up here. So the next presenter delegation is Susan Blay regarding bus service in Odessa. You could just come up and Have a seat there and we'll take your comments.
It won't be quite as sophisticated.
It wouldn't be if I was presenting it either.
And for the rest of the audience, which I'm sorry I can't address you by name. But I appreciate the opportunity of being able to speak to you this evening. I requested the time because I wanted to talk about your improvement of transportation, which may follow along coincidentally on what I've heard just previously. The pilot project identified in your strategic plan of 2019 to 2025. I'm a senior, obviously, and I have a vested interest in following the progress of this initiative to have a bus service between that is going to connect Odessa with Kingston and Napanee. Having read some of the reports to date, I can appreciate your uphill battle in the issue to see the issue through the challenges of COVID, the complexities of working with other jurisdictions, and many demands of daily business when administering the affairs of the municipality, to name just a few. It would seem at this point, however, that the other interested parties are on board, that a tentative bus route has been decided upon, and that the probable, the financing is in place. Your report identifies the non-drivers in the community who would benefit from this service, but I would like to draw your attention specifically to the elderly constituents who are probably the most vulnerable. Their declining health, both physical and mental, and their diminishing resources, which are especially acute in this present economy, are daily challenges. And living in a rural community without a driver's license only underlines their knowledge of their loss, of their self-determination, and the potential for isolation. Your report lists reasons for the necessity of traveling to either Kingston or Napanee. Heading this list is the fact that presently there is no nurse practitioner or medical clinic in Odessa. And as an aside, I had to take a cab last year to go to a medical appointment in Kingston, and the cost, the fare, was $50 in each direction. Drilling down from the emotional health concern recognized in one of your reports, one cannot be surprised about anxiety and depression for those without access to public transit. Whereas friends and family members can usually be relied upon for scheduled appointments, imagine the frustration of not being able to do something spontaneous. Go to a movie, meet with friends, go to town for lunch, or just even to do personal shopping. An unintended consequence of not having public transit may be resulting stress, frustration, and guilt felt by all parties when juggling busy schedules in an effort to meet everyone's expectations. In many families with both adults working, children's needs are often paramount. And if there are time and other resources are stretched, then non-essential trips to Kingston or to Napanee by seniors may be not a priority. Also imagine someone living alone with no support and no one to whom they can turn for any sort of transportation. The older generation is generally more stoic, less demanding, and without a sense of entitlement so prevalent in society today. But public transit would allow some dignity, which naturally evolves from a sense of independence and a measure of autonomy. This initiative has been a lengthy process for some of the reasons already stated, and for many more of which I am totally unaware. But I'm wondering what timeline you might share with us in estimating the time around establishing a bus service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing
Do I
that.
need?
you can just, if you mind just staying for just a moment, that would be great. For one thing, I'd like to open it up to council to, if there were any questions or comments for clarification. Councillor Broderick.
Not through your worship, not really a question, but I can appreciate everything you said, having a mother who's in her upper 80s, and luckily for us, family supports are there because I'm retired, my wife's retired, and we can do those things, but I can appreciate everything you said, and hopefully we can move forward with some concrete.
That would be really, really rewarding.
Concrete
Mhm.
direction, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the end of your presentation, you asked the question about timelines, and to be honest, my memory is failing me right now. I'm just looking to staff. Were there timelines established with the regional transit, or is it in the development stages still? And if it's not something off the top of your mind, we can always get an answer back to.
Thank you.
Through your worship, there is an additional proposal that is into the county right now, and we're waiting on confirmation, and then we will be bringing the report back to council. We are currently involved in the rural study, the rural transit study with the city of Kingston, South Mountain, Gavin Rockaway, and ourselves. And that study with different models and business plans is supposed to be completed in the fall. So then we can move forward with that as well.
Thank you. Sorry, I called it the regional. It was the rural I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So we're actually working on two avenues for transit, and one is the rural where it takes in the city, South Frontenac, Lennox, or Loyalist, and everything. So it kind of makes a larger system to be able to go to more, be more access more amenities. And as was mentioned, that will be coming back, a report will be coming back to council, and hopefully we can be able to, looking forward to bringing something out of that, because Loyalist is developing in all of the communities as well as the industrial. So it's very in demand right now. And I guess the one point that, if I may, just stuck with me was you used the word dignity. And it's important that everyone is able to maintain that dignity, and if transit is one of the issues, then
Previous presentation was about well-being, and that
Yes.
sort of flows from that.
yes, flowed very nicely.
Mhm.
Thank you. Council, any final questions or comments? Could I have a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Budrick, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that completes our delegations and presentations and adoption of the minutes. We have the recommendation was confirmation of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole for April 3rd, 2023. Yeah, just catching up to myself here. Council, any questions for clarification? Seeing none, do we have a motion to bring forward this evening? Councillor Willis. So moved?
Yes.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Broderick. Any comments from the mover, the seconder, anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. And at this point, I'm just going to mention to Councillor Parks, I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen so I catch you if you put your hand up. If I miss you, please speak up so that I don't miss a comment from you. Confirmation of the minutes of the 10th session of regular council, Monday, May 8th, 2023. The recommendation is that the minutes of the 10th session regular council, May 8th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Council, were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, do I have a mover? Councillor Innes, so moved, seconded by Councillor Broderick. Mover, any comments? Seconder?
None.
Anyone else? Call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion has passed. And moving down to economic growth and community development. Green Municipal Fund Funding Agreement. And I see we have. You have any information at this time for council or just here to receive questions?
For you, nothing further.
Nothing further? Thank you. So council, any questions before I read the motion? Seeing none. So the recommendation for the report is that the report from the Engineering and Environmental Division, May 23rd, 2023, Green Municipal Fund Funding Agreement, 237 Jim Snow Drive feasibility study be received, and the bylaw 2023-023 being a bylaw to enter into a funding agreement with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities be enacted and passed. Do we have a mover? Deputy Mayor. So moved, seconded by Councillor Bubick. Any comments from the mover, the seconder? Any other members? Councillor Broderick.
For you, your worship, just a question to, I don't know who would answer this, but is the municipal half of this or portion of this already in the budget line for this year?
Yeah, so it's accounted for in engineering studies at this time for the operating budget, and the end goal would be to recover that through tax sales, if that is how we proceed with the problem.
Thank you.
You. Any other questions at this time or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you. The next one is results of tender 2023-16 Odessa West reconstruction of stormwater improvements. And I see. Right. We do have the declaration by Councillor Innes, and he's not participating in this item. So, council, any questions for clarification from staff regarding this item? Councillor Willis.
I noticed that the remediation for the lawns that are disturbed is going to be the hydro seed again, and we've had some issues with that. So what steps or what learning are we applying that we don't have the same problems with the residents in this neighborhood?
Mr. Grattan?
Through your worship. Couple of lessons we learned from last time is we'll do additional soil testing on the topsoil to make sure that it's the quality that we're expecting to achieve. So we did limited testing last time. This time we'll do more testing, and that way the contractor will know that we are testing, and hopefully they'll bring better soil. There was an issue last time where we attempted to seed late in the fall, and the intent was it would germinate over the winter and come up in the spring as regular growth. That didn't happen, and we got a lot more weeds. So timelines wise, this time, if we're in that same situation, we won't put the topsoil down in the fall. We'll just leave it and we'll address it all in the spring, topsoil. And the idea being that'll stop the weeds from growing. It'll be easier to work in the spring. Those are the two largest ones, and then just a little bit more site quality control.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other, sorry, did you? No, okay. Just caught a movement out of the corner of my eye. Any other questions from council? Councillor Broderick.
Through your worship, just a couple of sort of questions. Can you give me a ballpark on what the original estimated costs were?
The original estimated costs, essentially what the budget is. So I believe for both projects it would have been 4.6 million. I may not be clear in the report, but 4.6 million between the M Street and the Odessa plants.
And just one other one, and this is more for my own information, or sort of having not gone through the process, maybe. The bids go from 4.3 million to 6.6. Like, I'm having trouble getting my head around what could be, like, what's the 6.6? Is that a Cadillac of all water and sewer systems? Like, what accounts in general, not specific to this, but what counts for sort of the wide variety of prices?
through your, a lot of different factors. Depends how busy the contractors are, how much or how well it fits into their work plan. Some of them will bid it not really wanting to do the work, but if they get it, there's enough money there to make it worth their while, kind of thing. So there's a number of different factors each company takes into consideration. It's not unusual. I've had very like ones that are closer and ones that are further apart. So it's not an abnormality.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, sometimes with that too, I find that there's some companies are better suited for some disciplines, and so they can realize savings depending on what they can do themselves as well. So there's like you said, there's a number of factors. So any other questions for clarification? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the report from the Engineering and Environmental Division, May 23rd, 2023, results of tender 2023-16, Odessa West reconstruction and storm sewer improvements be received, and that K. Mulrooney Trucking Limited be awarded tender 2023-16, Odessa West reconstruction and stormwater improvement, and the council authorized a pre-budget approval for 2024 of $491,800. And the bylaw 2023-037 being a bylaw to enter an agreement with K. Mulrooney Trucking Limited for the Odessa West reconstruction and stormwater improvements project be enacted and passed. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bubrick, so moved.
All three, yes.
All three. Seconded by Councillor Broderick. Any comments from the mover?
None, no.
Okay, seconder?
None.
None. Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, Mr. Griffin and Ms. Furness. So this item is for the potential road closing at 5523 Bath Road. Just looking to staff, is there any additional information at this time, or just here to answer questions?
Through the mayor, no additional comments, just here to answer questions.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions for clarification before we take the motion? Seeing none. I'll read the motion. The report from the Development Services Division, May 23, 2023, potential road closing 5526 Bath Road. Response to resolution 2022-14 be received, and that an appraisal be required as part of the road closing and sale application process to determine the fair market value of the land. Do we have a mover this evening? Councillor Willis, seconded by Councillor Broderick. Councillor Willis, any comments? Seconder?
I just want to comment, Your Worship, that I think we need to be in a situation where we don't establish any kind of precedent and go with past practices of getting an evaluation of the land.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, just back to the mover, make sure no final comments. In that case, we will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The next item is short-term accommodations. And on this item, is there any additional information? We're just here to answer questions. Council, are there any questions for clarification at this time before we take the motion? Seeing none, the motion is that the report from the Development Services Division, May 23rd, 2023, short-term accommodations be received, and that council directs staff to further review and report back on potential zoning bylaw regulations pertaining to short-term accommodations as part of the comprehensive zoning bylaw review, and that staff monitor complaints related to short-term accommodations, STAs, and report back to council with recommendations on the potential licensing bylaw if negative impacts from STAs are appearing in the township. Do we have a mover for the motion this evening? Councillor Broderick, so moved, seconded by Councillor Willis. Mover, any comments?
Just a few comments, Your Worship. Reading through the report, I think obviously I've accepted the staff recommendation, but just a few things I found interesting. Again, enforcement of noise and property bylaws is important in this. I think we need to look long term, and I'm thinking of terms of the development that's going to happen in the industrial area, and how do these people who are coming here to work. And the one thing that really caught my eye was operators hold no more than one license in one of the areas. And I think I'm just using the neighborhood I live in. They're popping up a lot of rental situations that are out of town, maybe not in the loyalist area, and they're renting. And I just don't want something like this to get out of hand. And the one thing also, if my recommendation, staff having stayed in a lot of short-term housing, I like what Gravenhurst is doing with that 30-minute contact thing, because that's often what happens. You stay in an Airbnb and there's an issue, but you don't know who to contact. And this past weekend I stayed in one, and they had all the local municipal stuff on the wall and a poster. So I think as staff explores this, those are things that I feel are important for STAs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover, seconder. Okay. Making sure I'm still in the right spot. Other comments from council? Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't support the motion as it stands. My concern is that we will get into a situation where we're behind the 8 ball when this possibly explodes in our area. So if the mover would be open to a friendly amendment, I'd be willing to offer something to support it.
Please proceed with the friendly amendment, and we can take it from there to see if it's accepted.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on item number 2, what I would suggest that instead of it being the staff monitor complaints related to the short-term accommodations and report back to council with recommendations on a potential licensing bylaw. I don't like the fact that it says if negative impact from the STAs are appearing in the township. I think we need to be proactive in this approach and not leave it till there are problems that arise. The other concern that I have is that, as we all know, recently, and I believe it was in Montreal, down in Quebec, there was a fire in a short-term rental situation, and there was no governing body or legislation in place that allowed people to be identified, the people that perished in the fire. So I do have some safety concerns with some of these situations, and that's where I'm at. Sorry, I went on and I shouldn't have.
That's okay. So I just want to clarify. So basically you're looking at part 2 to end after potential licensing bylaw and remove if negative impacts are appearing in the township?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mover, is that considered a friendly amendment?
Yes, it is.
It is. Second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Seconder?
I'm sorry, I don't see it as friendly because it's changing very much what that clause says. And has the potential to put a lot of administrative work on staff to respond to what is currently 17 short-term accommodations. And we've had 2 complaints in recent years. So I'm not sure that the work that we're asking staff to do on this and go away from other important projects is what we need to be doing about short-term accommodations at this point in time. So I may have misunderstood what Councillor Parks was wanting to do with that change.
Okay. So if I may, Councillor Parks, you, with removing the last portion, then you were just looking for it to have that staff monitor complaints related to short-term accommodations and report back to council with recommendations on potential licensing bylaw. So to be proactive in
Our
drafting
approach.
a bylaw for the STAs.
Correct.
So not friendly?
No.
I'm just confirming. Okay, so no, it wasn't received as a friendly amendment. Is there any other comments from Councillor Parks then? I just want to make sure that I caught.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is the point to speak on it.
Yes.
But I will not support the motion as it stands. I think we're doing a disservice to our residents of Loyalist Township by not jumping on this before it becomes a problem. Based on the seminar that I attended at Roma, a lot of the municipalities that are experiencing the problems waited too late to start to engage in this, looking into this and dealing with it before it became a problem.
Okay, thank you. Any other members with comments? Back to the mover for final comment, if any.
Thank you, Your Worship. My only comment was we've got to get ahead of this. Got to be proactive. I don't want us to be in a situation 3, 6, 9 months down the road. We don't know where we're trying to put the genie back in the bottle, to sort of using an old statement. But okay, thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Opposed? Motion is passed. Next item, implementation of Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act. Just look to staff. Any comments on this one? Or
Nothing further.
thank you. So council, any questions for clarification before we go to the recommendation? Seeing none. The recommendation is that the report from the Development Services Division, May 23rd, 2023, re-implementation of Bill 109, More Homes for Everyone Act 2022 be received for information. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Mover, any comments?
I think it's best I don't.
Okay. Seconder, any comments? None? And what else?
Beautiful.
No further ones? Did you have a comment, Councillor Frederick?
No,
No, okay.
I'm just continuing to chuckle here.
Okay. I'll just make one brief one. With the hand we've been dealt, I like the approach that's being taken. We're not looking to go down a rabbit hole with confrontation with residents and developers. We're trying to make it very amicable and try to create a process that should promote success for everyone involved. So I'm glad to see the avenues that we're going down and what we're researching. So I look forward to it coming back to council. And with that, back to the mover. Okay. Call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Next one. The 14-002-2023 ready mix cement plant request to remove holding cell. No further information on this one either. Okay. Council, any questions for clarification before we go to the motion? Councillor Broderick.
Sort of to your worship, sort of a question and a request. Next time, maybe a map. I'm trying, where's parcel lot 19, 20, 21, and 22, concession 1, 2. I have an idea, but can you just give me a pinpoint to where it is?
Yes, through you, the mayor, to Councillor Broderick. My apologies. Next time we will include
Thank
that.
you.
In this specific location, it's just on County Road 4 north of Taylor Kidd, near the Doyle Road intersection.
Thank you.
That's possible.
Okay. So with no other questions, The recommendation reads a report from Development Services Division, May 23rd, 2023. Read D 14002, 2023. 2862429 Ontario Inc. Ready mix cement plant request to remove holding symbol be received of the bylaw 2023-029, being a bylaw to remove a holding symbol with respect to part lots 19, 20, 21, and 22, con 1 and 2 be enacted and passed. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bluegrass. So moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Anyone else? I'll just comment that I'm glad to see this proceeding forward. I'm glad to see it coming forward. So with that, I'll ask the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you. Emergency Services Department, approval of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. We have Deputy Chief coming forward. Well, Deputy, any additional information beyond the report, or just here to answer questions?
Here to answer questions, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Deputy Feeney before the motion? Councillor Project.
Through your worship, just Deputy, if you could just tell me who's the loyalist representative on this, and how does that play down the road in terms of involvement with a loyalist person?
So right now, it's through Your Worship, it's myself on Doctor. How it proceeds, we'll have to discuss that with the CEO or if that's the best course of action for the place.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for clarification? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the report from the Deputy Fire Chief dated May 23rd, 2023, reapproval of the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan be received, and that Council adopts the draft Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan as a 3-year plan. Do we have a mover this evening? Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Wells. Mover, any comments?
Something needs to be done. Looks good.
Seconder?
I agree.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Project.
Just a comment that it does need to be done, as the mover said, and that it deals with, like, what I would say are a lot of perceptions out there that maybe aren't true in terms of, you hear about crime and different things, and it's just a way to maybe inform the public more about what needs to be done and what is being done in Loyalist.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Thank you, through the mayor. Glad to see this plan come forward, and a few things that I saw in there that I was happy to see, where it was the inclusion of community safety metrics. So keep an eye on how things go each year. The traffic calming interventions, the education for personal safety. Oftentimes, that's education can go a long way. The active transportation planning, I can see that in there as well. And then I believe also in the report, there's mention on the working on the primary care health connection side of things and the mental health side of things, working with the Frontenac Clinics and Anthem Ontario Health team. So glad to see that in there and included in the plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I would just like to make a comment on it myself. I think it's a very good plan. As with every plan, time will tell what fine tuning is required, but I think it's a good one to get us going. And it was well, as I mentioned previously, I think the information was compiled from information I was getting. I think it was compiled accurately and gives a good solid plan for the communities. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the committee members, Jay Hawley and Maria Papinoli. I never get the last name correct. I apologize for that. And council and the township representative, Deputy Fire Chief James Feeney, who was heavily involved and showed great leadership through the process as well. And so I think the township was very well represented and received great information. Thank you. So with that, I'm down to calling the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you. Communication for consideration, and I believe this one was the one that Councillor Ennis declared. National Chronic Pain Society request to pass the motion. Council, how would you like to proceed with this request? We can receive or we can receive and support. Councillor Willis.
Motion to receive and support.
So moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any comments from the mover?
No.
Seconder? Deputy? Anyone else? Seeing none. I just want to publicly state that I'm going to support this fully. Chronic pain, from what I've seen, it can be debilitating, but can also stigmatize the people involved with it because it's often not visible. So it's not well understood by many. And it's one of the items that I believe can cause extensive mental stress and cause further ongoing disorders if it's not addressed. So especially if it's symptoms that the doctors cannot nail down exactly what the root cause is, sometimes it takes a great length of time. And so that makes it unable to be treated effectively. So there does have to be some measures taken so that the people do not feel marginalized in society. So thank you. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Call Jake. Coming in. Next one. Odessa Township Proclamation Request National Accessibility Week 2023. Council, how do you wish to proceed with this one? Councillor Frederick.
I would recommend that we accept this and proclaim it.
So moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Mover, any comments?
Just that it fits into our community safety and well-being plan that we just passed.
Thank you. Seconder, anything further? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Please. Motion is passed. Notice of motion or direct motion. Does any member have a direct motion for this evening? Seeing none, any notice of motion being brought forward? Seeing none. Consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine nature are included in the consent agenda. Any and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. Particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any councillor. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of the business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Council, any items you wish to extract this evening from the consent agenda? Deputy Mayor.
Through your worship, I would like to extract 22.4.
22.4. Any other items you wish to extract? I'm going to look to the clerk's department. For me to extract and speak one of the items, do I step down as chair?
If you're going to make a motion.
If you're just
Which
speaking
would-
on it, you wouldn't have to step
But
down.
to extract it, I'd have to make a motion. So I would have to step down. and-
No, you can just request that it be withdrawn or taken out.
Okay. One further question. The ones resolutions from other municipalities. Would be received for information if it wasn't extracted, correct? Okay. So I'm gonna ask to extract City of Stratford, item 22.1, and I can step down when I make a motion for that. And I'll turn the chair over to the deputy. Okay, so the two are being extracted. Any other ones from council? Seeing none. The motion is that the items in the consent agenda dated May 23rd, 2023 be approved and presented as presented, and that the necessary action be taken. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Blueberg. Any comments from the deputy? Seconder? Anyone else? Call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. So I'll go to 22.4 first. Deputy?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move to receive and support.
Receive and support. So moved, seconded by Councillor Wells. Deputy, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I think this resolution captures what the corporation and indeed the Heritage Committee that will be coming forward with some recommendations to council shortly with exactly with respect to this legislation in section 27 in particular, and why the bill currently as written is problematic. And I feel that the resolution from the town of Lincoln adequately captures our objections here in Loyalist and should definitely be supported to catch the province's ear.
Thank you. Seconder, any comments? No? Any other comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. And actually, I realized I didn't need to step down, but I will anyway, because that's what I said I'd do. So I'm going to turn it over to the chair, to the deputy.
So I'll look to the mayor to make a motion for 22.1.
Yes, and then, thank you. I would move to receive for information, and my main purpose was to speak for it. Thank you.
So moved. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Broderick.
Of course, my notes are on that iPad over there. Yeah, see what I
That's it, dude.
So third word. The reason for this is that I agree with the Stratford that actually, can I click on this to open the item?
No, it's not a touch screen.
Okay. Oh,
It's not fancy like our township stuff.
there we go. And it's not a big screen. I'm still trying to do it. Something about teaching old dogs new tricks.
Use that.
Thank you. Yes, the reason I wanted to I just wanted to make sure that I did have it straight. The recommendation was that staff from Stratford that staff be requested to send a letter to provincial government to endorse the redirect of current municipal beds in abeyance funding towards the support of community care services. The reason I wanted to speak to this is because I think we became very aware of the shortage of beds in long-term homes, and at the county council level, we see that as well with the county residents, the John Parrott Center. And so asking to be able to take funds and redirect them from the beds in the long-term care to community care services, I think would be doing a disservice. The community care services need their own funding. It needs to be enhanced and not at the cost of another very necessary business such as long-term care homes. They need all the funding they're getting now, and they also need additional funding in my mind from what I see. So that's why I wanted to separate it and speak to it, is simply to make sure that I voiced my concerns with it publicly. Thank you.
Duly noted. Seconder. Any further? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you. Now you can put that non-touch screen to where it was. Thank you, Deputy. And now go back down to where I was. Okay, so we dealt with the extracted. Members' privilege. Oh, sorry, updates from members appointed to county council, committees, and local boards. Members, any comments? Seeing none, I will just mention one. The county council had held a strategic planning session last week, and to set the strategic plan for the next 4 months. And it was a very good session, brought out some interesting discussions. And the items that ended up coming to the top were foster economic growth and opportunity, and through building on our unique identity and assets. The next one was facilitate safe, affordable housing and being poised for action. And safeguard the environment, addressing climate change. And the final one that is sort of an underlying one as well is advance organizational excellence, building on our current successes. So I just wanted to bring that forward, that there is actually a report going to county council tomorrow evening, which will be speaking to this and getting council's endorsement to proceed further with coming up with the rest of the plan. So with that, there were no other items to bring forward. Members' privilege. Anything to be brought forward this evening? None? Confirmatory. Yes, Councillor Willis.
I just wanted to take an opportunity through your worship to congratulate the staff of the Heritage Culture and Tourism Group that held a family fishing derby 2 weekends ago on Amherst Island, and it was well attended, well enjoyed. I saw lots of smiles on children's faces, but adults as well. And it was also, I thought, very well organized. It was nice to see the other departments there and the resources that were there, Sandy Pines and such. So thank you, and thank you for hosting it on the island. It was a lovely day.
Thank you. I would echo that as well. It was an amazing day. And that jogged my memory to one item I was going to bring forward was the first Tunes Day in the park. It was held last Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, last week. The days blend together. And it was an amazing performance by Ryan Malcolm and his band. We had a couple great sponsors, and the turnout, although the temperature turned quite cool that evening, lots of people brought heavy jackets and blankets to stay warm, and it was very well attended, and everyone there enjoyed themselves. And it was great for the community, and the Lions Club did quite well too with bringing in non-perishable items for the food bank in Amherst. Any other items from council? Seeing none, confirmatory bylaw. Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor, so moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The upcoming meeting dates are there. The next one is a Committee of Adjustment and Committee of the Whole on June 5th, starting at 6 p.m. And motion to adjourn. Do I have a mover to adjourn? Councillor Project, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.